Hey everyone, General Hand Grenade here. Good to see you again. So it's Thursday. I told you I'd make another video on Thursday. The purpose of this video is to thank everybody for helping me to get to 2,000 subscribers. Um, I knew that I was going to get there soon. I was thinking like last weekend. I thought it would probably happen by this coming weekend. And then somebody made a comment, and I was watching TV and I looked on my phone there, and they said, "Congrats on 2,000 subscribers." And I, what? Yeah, like that's the way it goes, right? Like I don't know if they save them up or something or whatever, but you get a whole bunch at once sometimes, and so it kind of took me off guard. But like it was inevitable, I guess. I knew that it was coming. But I'll be honest with you though, like it doesn't mean as much to me as let's say 1,000 subscribers did. When you first start doing this, um, it seems like you'll never get to 100 subscribers, right? Um, it takes a long time to get there, and then it takes less time to get to 200 subscribers, and you can kind of get caught up in that, like you're as you work your way up, and 1,000. I mean, that seems like a lot to you, and then 1,500, it was a pretty big deal for me too. But with 2,000 though, it's kind of like I'm over that. You know what I mean? I'm not really watching that anymore. I know that I'm aware of it, as I'm aware of all the different things that happen on my channel. That's just something that you like. There's things that you can follow if you have a YouTube channel, analytics and things like that, and it helps you to make a better channel if you um, read all these things and find out what kind of things work and what kind of things don't work. I had a I had a talk with Grasshopper about that recently, about things that work and things that don't work, and he and I had a good talk about that. But it's the kind of thing that guys like us can talk about, because we've both made hundreds of videos, right? And so we know what kind of videos get a lot of views and what kind of videos don't. And um, but I don't really make videos to get as many possible views as I can get anymore. Like I said, when you're first starting out, that's something that you can get caught up in, and and it's something to strive for, and it is definitely a measure of how well you're doing at making videos. Um, there's a lot of people that make these type of videos now. A lot of Access Now as YouTubers, and but if you notice, though, if you look at all of them, most of them have less than 100 subscribers, and some of them are because they're just getting started, and some of them have been around for a while. Some of them just they don't put out many videos. Like there's a lot of reasons why their subscriber rate doesn't go very high. Um, but then they will find though that if they put the effort in, like some of us do, um, and they're consistent, they're consistently putting out videos, not putting out three today and then not another one for 4 months from now. You know what I mean? Because people kind of forget about you when you do that. But you they'll find that once they get past that 100 subscribers, that things just start snowballing. They start going faster. 200 goes like half as fast as 100 did, and then after that it just starts climbing. Like I get about 100 every 5 or 6 weeks. I get another 100. um, I think the last month I've got somewhere around 60 or something like that. So it takes about 6 weeks or 7 weeks to get about 100 for me. But I mean, when I was first starting out, it took forever to get 100. And but when I say it's not that big a deal for me to hit 2,000, that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate all my subscribers. I appreciate the 2,000 subscriber just as much as I appreciated the 200 subscriber. Honestly, I do. Um, I just, it's the numbers that I'm not getting caught up in. I appreciate that so many people tune in to watch me do this, right? To watch me play with little plastic army men on the internet. It's something that I enjoy doing, and so having people join me just adds to that enjoyment for me. And I really do that for me, for my hobby, um, and less for the viewer. But I think that's the way you have to do it, because if you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to keep putting out videos like I said you needed to do. And I think it'll show in the quality of work that you do, if you're doing it for somebody else as opposed to just doing it for the love of doing it. Um, I've never made any money doing this. You have to. I watched a video recently, like within the last week, and I clicked on it because it said, how much money do I make on 1 million views? And I think the person said that she makes, it depended on where the views came from. Like they get more from a person that viewed from the United States than they would from a person that viewed from Africa, for instance, right? So I think she was getting between 600 and $1,200 for 1 million views, and that's on one video. You know, I don't have 1 million views on all my videos in total, and it'll probably be another year or so before I do. And so, like you're not going to make a living out of doing that on Axis and Allies style games videos. It's just not that big a genre. So you're really doing it for the love of doing it. You're not doing it for the money, and like I said, I'm not doing it for the numbers anymore. I really wasn't anyway. I was still doing it for the love of what I was doing, but the numbers meant something to me before, meant more to me than they do now, and they're not meaningless. They're just I just don't take notice of it much anymore. Um, it's just something that's there, right? And I guess like you could say that it is a measure of success. Like the people that are over 1,000 subscribers in our community, there's Young Grasshopper and me and Sired Blood and Hilltop Pillbox and probably Detroit is probably over 1,000. I don't really pay much attention, but I'm just thinking of the people that are probably over that many subscribers in our community, and um, I think of all of those guys as being successful at what they do, and and they make good videos. You know what I mean? Like I like watching their videos. I subscribe to just about every Axis and Allies YouTube channel, but I don't necessarily enjoy all of the videos. Some people are better than others, and it's not necessarily the ones that have 1,000 subscribers. Like some people that don't even have 100 subscribers can make really good videos. It's just a matter of seeing if they can stand the test of time. Like if they can stick with it for a year or two and build up all those subscribers, then then they'll get there. But when you do, though, when you are in it for, I've been doing it for just about 3 years now. I think another month or two it'll be 3 years, and so to get that many subscribers and that many views in 3 years, then that's something that you can be proud of, I guess. And I am. Um, I think, though, more so what I get enjoyment out of and what I'm trying to say is that I really just like playing with little plastic army men on the internet and making lots of new friends like I have with this hobby. I wish that we all lived closer together so that we could all play games together, but at the same time, um, before the internet came along, we were much further apart than we are now, right? Like we were not able to communicate the way that we do right now, and so this medium has been able to bring us much closer together. whether it's interacting in forums or on Facebook or on YouTube, like I'm doing right now. Anyway, the other day I put out a video, and I was giving away a prize um, for the previous video that I did, and in that video I stated that I was going to give away another prize in this video, but how we were going to give away the prize in this video, and I try to change it up here and there. For this video, I asked you to ask questions of me, and they could be any kind of question that you wanted, and I might answer it. And I was just looking through the questions before I started this video, and none of them are too personal. I think I can answer them all. None of them asked me for my banking information. So anyway, let me just find it here. Where are we? I gotta pull up that video now. Okay, so the video was called "Tanks Bigger Than Camels Winter." So I'm just going to start at the top and we'll go down. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to write people's names down so that at the end we can roll the dice. And before we get into that, though, before I start taking the questions, let me just show you what the prize is. And I think that there's two really good prizes here. I'm not going to give away two prizes. I'm only going to give away one. But I wanted to have a choice of two prizes. So whoever the winner is, they can choose, because my channel has become a combination of Axis and Allies and Global War and from historical board gaming. And so I wanted to have a prize that that would have been good for each game. And so the one for the Axis and Allies, we'll start with that. Now, when I got a call from Doug at Historical Board Gaming, or actually he sent me a private message, and then we started talking on the phone and stuff. He asked what could he do for the Axis and Allies community. He was reaching out to me because I was a YouTuber, and so I said I'll get back to you, and I started thinking about it. And I came up with a bunch of ideas, and thanks to him, those ideas came to life. And the first one was, I said, we need markers. Like, love your markers. I hate the markers that come with the Axis and Allies games. But the problem is you got to keep buying 5 at a time, you know. I said, what I would like is for you to get a marker set together that has everything in it, and I only pay one price, and it's done. And, you know, you could, because we're buying so many, then you could give us a break on the price. And so that's what he did. And so, this is for Global 1940. He asked me how many markers we need, and so I came up with the number of markers. So there's 25 of each of these, the naval bases and the air bases. And if you don't have any of these make your board look so much better. Like, you've seen my board on YouTube in the past, and how much better these markers are, and they just stand right out compared to those cardboard pieces of crap that they give you for the Axis and Allies games. And then convoy markers. I think there's 10 of those in there. There's the 6 kamikaze markers. And then there's these damage markers. So you're not sticking your battleships and your carriers over on their side. You're putting them on these markers to show that they're damaged. So that was one of the things that I'd asked for, and he put that all in a set. I can't remember how much this cost. It's like $20 or $25 or something. I can't remember. Anyway, the other thing was a set of complexes, because I really liked the complexes that he had. And again, you get these cheap pieces of crap from Axis and Allies, little cardboard markers. So you got your major complexes, and you got your minor complexes, but they're all in the colors for the countries. Like, here's the Japanese one, and the British one. They're all in the right colors. There's the German one, that's black, and so I put together a list of how many that you could possibly need, and like, it might be the odd game where you're going to need one more Italian complex than what I put in the set there, or what I said we needed for the set. So you could just use a different one or whatever for that odd game. But this set of complexes here should be everything that you need to play Global 40. So there's those two things. And the other thing that I said to him was, you know what I've really been looking for, I've been scouring the internet for, but I can't seem to find anything like what I want. I said, you've got something like that, but it's cardboard. I don't want cardboard. I said, I want fuel gauge markers. I said, so that you fly your planes and then you know how many spaces you got left before you have to land, right? And so, like 5 minutes later, he sent me an email with a bunch of different drawings, right? Um, Markers, and I said, yeah, I like number whatever, you know. I said, but I want it a brighter color, and I want it round. I don't want a square marker. I want it round because I have round flight stands, and the flight stands would fit better on round markers. And so then he came back with this one, and I said, yeah, that's exactly what I want right there. So then he asked me, okay, well, how many of each do I put in? And so I gave him the numbers. And so this really was a collaboration between him and I. Him providing it all and designing these, and me telling him how many to do. So that's one prize right there, and that's a really nice prize. This will pimp out your Global 40 board. Like this is all you need is right here, except for some money. You're going to need some money because obviously they didn't give you any damn money in that game either. So that's one prize that you could choose if you would like. We'll just put it all in there. And that's for the Axis and Allies players out there. If you're more into Global War, then but you haven't got the game yet, so then there is, this is the version 2 map. Now it's a cloth map, and it's the 36 by 72 map. So it's the 3 by 6 map. It's a cloth map. I don't have the player aids. I think they cost $35, but I could talk with Doug. Maybe get a deal on those. You just have to order the player aids from. But anyway, that's a cheap way to get into Global War. Right there is with a map. I'm not going to show you the map. You've seen my map a million times, and you've seen other people's maps on the internet. This is version 2 map, right? But with that, the one one expansion set that's sought after more than any is this one here. This is the Spanish Civil War. There's a ton of units in there. Like you find when you're building this game is that you need a lot more units than you have for your Global 40 game. Your Global 40 game is just the base for the 1936 game. Then you need a lot more units after that. And this is going to get you a lot more units. Like this takes care of Spain. Spain's out of the way. Okay, now like I need other neutrals, but you don't need your Spanish ones anymore. And you know, like right now is a really good time to get into it too because of the off-colored units that he has for sale right now. They're not going to be there much longer, I don't think. But if you're thinking about getting into the Global War game, definitely get some of those off-colored units. And you know, the neutrals could all be the same color. You've seen mine, and they're all painted up into different colors, but you don't have to do that. Like you can just have them all the same color if you want, or you could order a couple of different colors. They have, I think, 3 of the odd colored pieces, and you could do it that way, where you know you've got 3 different colors of neutrals on the board. Or you could be like me and you could paint them all. It's up to you. But that would be the cheapest way to get into it. But anyway, so that's a good starter set right there, is to get a map and to get the Spanish Civil War, if that's the prize you want. Or if you want the other prize, then that's that deluxe Global 1940. So either one of those is what is going to be the prize today. Let's go back to the questions. So I got to write down everybody's name too. So David Zonta, or David, with an E on the end, Zonta. So David asks, what do you think of the development of a 1933 game, maybe by HBG? Okay, David. There is something like that. It's not developed yet, but they had started it. So, what global war is supposed to be? It's like a history of war. I think it's supposed to start in the 1800s. I'm not sure which war is going to start off. Maybe the American Civil War. I'm not certain. But with each subsequent game that you play, that's how you're going to start the next game. So, like the World War One game, depending on what happens in that game, that's going to affect the setup of the World War Two game. You know what I mean? And then the World War Two game, how that one ends, then that's going to affect the setup of the next game after that, and so on and so forth, right? But there was one game that they were trying to develop, and I think it was just called Interwar, and I'm not sure if they put some dates to it, but basically what it was the interwar period between World War One and World War Two. There was 21 years in there, and a lot happened in those 21 years. I seen them; they were doing it online, and it wasn't really for me because there wasn't a lot of little army men killing each other. You know what I mean? It was a lot of diplomacy, was what it was. There's not a lot of war going on, so I think that Will would still like to develop that game. He's the guy that he's the inspiration behind all these games. He's the one that writes all the rules and came up with. I think he came up with the concept of the whole global war genre thing. So I know that he did a lot of studying about that period of time, and he would like that in there. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's not specifically 1933, but it is an interwar development. Um, I kind of thought that perhaps what else would be a good idea is you started in 1936 with a 36 to 45 game. You could start earlier than that, but not. But your turns would be like 5 year turns just for the first couple of turns, right? Like you'd have a 1920 turn, 1925 turn, 1930 turn, 1935 turn, and then you would start in 1936 and move on from that. But I don't know. That's just a wild idea that I had in the back of my head. So anyway, that's that question. Number two. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this one. Uh, Cioffica Spazielli. That's obviously an Italian name. Ciofficia Spazielli. Okay, and his question, maybe it's her, I don't know. The question is, what is your view on space exploring? Should we make a game about it? I'm thrilled. Um, I've often thought that I was born 100 years too early because I love everything to do with space. I love science fiction. I would love to be on a spaceship and to go from planet to planet and with different species and everything. I don't know if we'll ever get there, um, but I'm fascinated by the whole space thing. I think that we should never stop exploring space. I think that there's something out there. I don't know what it is, but definitely, I mean, it would be weird if we were the only intelligent life in the universe when the universe is virtually limitless. There's a lot of space out there, and like it took some very specific set of circumstances to develop our planet. But with all the millions of planets out there, that had to have happened other times as well, right? And then should they make a game about it? Well, I'm pretty sure they have made some games about it already. Um, but yeah, the more games, the better. I'm trying to think of what's that game that Grasshopper was playing on his channel there. That looked like a pretty good game anyway. Anyway, it was a space game. But yeah, um, if there was a game that was in this style that we play, then yeah, I'd love to play that. Okay, so the next one is the warden. And the warden asks, for G40, what are your top 3 must-use house rules? Well, I haven't played with my house rules for a long time. Here is my house rules here. It's just that I don't play G40 much anymore. So when I do, it's usually okay. Let's see if we can play a game in a day or kind of thing, right? And that means I'm not going to take the time to teach people my rules, right? And really, for the people that only play G40 or less than that, like the other Axis and Allies games, um, I think you'll find if you ever do go to the Global War stuff, to the 36 to 45 game, is that that's uh, that's where you were headed all along when you were making your house rules. You'll find that your house rules are like um, the Global War games. It's like a couple of guys who said, this Axis and Allies is a really good game. What could we do to improve it? And then they had the resources to do that. And so that's why I don't really pay much attention anymore. I think my favorite one was a Special Forces unit. I liked it so much that I I put a different version of that into the Global War game, one that fit into that game. I really did like the research and development rules that I developed. It was kind of like where you had to go on missions. You had to get different types of research and stuff, and you could steal the research from people. You could steal the technology. There's a video that I made of that anyway, if you're interested in it. But that was really interesting doing it that way. And what else did I have? I did my own American Minorities at War chart. So that's something like you buy the little tokens from historical board gaming in a set called American Minorities at War. And so I just made, because the rules didn't fit with the Global 40, so I just made my own rules for it. That was cool. I got airfields, railways, hospitals, Tankograd. I like the Tankograd one. Yeah, there was a bunch of them, but like I said though, I'm not really too much interested in that anymore. Um, but yeah, there was some interesting ones in there for sure. Thanks for the question. So number 4 is Palastro Verde. Palastro Verde. Um, yes. Do I have any other hobby? Um, Not really, Like, I mean, I have other parts of my life that I do. I have a cabin at the lake, and so we do projects out there. But really, I don't think of that as a hobby. I think of that as a lifestyle. I have 2 homes, right? Like, I live here in this house, and on the weekends in the summertime, I live at my cabin, right? I just I only take a few things from here because most of the stuff that I have there. Um, I leave there, right? It's just the really expensive stuff that you don't want to be leaving there. Plus, you have to take your food and drinks out, right? Um, but and also tools. So I guess that's probably the closest thing that I have to a hobby is that. The rest would just be living life, right? Like doing my job and things like that. So, but as far as truly a hobby, I'd have to say no. Um, So then there is Frilly LeCunt. Not sure where he got that name from. Frilly Le. Okay, so Frilly wants to know. Here it's so cold and sweaty. What's your favorite weather like? I like hot weather, but not too hot. Being a northern boy, um, for me, 75 to 80 degrees is ideal, but I also like to get out of the sun too. So, um, either have some shade around um, or have a sunny and cloudy day. You know what I mean? so that every once in a while a cloud would come over and give me some relief from that. Because when you live in a northern climate like I do, you're not used to the sun. Like we're all pasty white by the time spring comes along up here, and we burn hard when we first go out in the sun. And so I like sunny and hot, but not too much of it. Yeah. Well, I think the hottest I've been in is 115 degrees Fahrenheit. That's back when we used to do Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius. And then the coldest I've been in was minus 100 Fahrenheit. That was cold, but that was with wind chill as well, and that was extremely cold. So ham bone 7733. Okay, so which game has you more excited, the Global War World War One game or the new 1936 version with updated map? I'd have to say for sure the 1936 version, Hambone. Um, it's not that I'm not excited about the World War One game. I am. It's just that the 1936 game is um, so much more. Um, Sorry, I was just looking at my phone. I missed a call there. So much more than the 19 than the World War One game. Sorry. Um, there's more unit types. Um, there's more to playing the game. Like in World War One, there wasn't much technology, so you're really just plodding along, and the planes. Like one of the things that I was noticing because I just finished playing that World War One game is that you could leave a transport out in the middle of the water anywhere, like even right beside Europe, and there was nothing that was going to happen to it unless the other guys happened to have um, a boat. Like the planes just didn't do the same thing, right? You couldn't just take a fighter out there and take out somebody's boats. Like it just didn't. It just doesn't work that way, right? A fighter just doesn't have the range to go out into the water and do that. The the blimps did, but again, like they're not as useful as a lot of the planes are in the 36 game. And with the 36 game, like it's even getting better and better. Like with the new rules that are coming out, more unit types, tank destroyers, and battle cruisers, and like there's just so many different units that have so many different uses. You know what I mean? Like they're not all for the same thing. So for yourself, trying to decide what to buy based upon your needs, like that's half the battle right there. Like trying to decide how to achieve the objective that you're looking for with the right type of unit. And it's not just whether it's a tank or a fighter. I mean, you've got 5 or 6 different kinds of infantry that you have to choose between. You know, and so for me, that just blows away the World War One game. In World War One, there's only a few different unit types, like probably half as many, and so definitely, and plus, I'm much more familiar with World War Two, so I'm much more interested in World War Two, and it really truly was a global conflict, whereas World War One was largely a European conflict. So there's that as well. But thanks for the question. So Zanzi Barbar. No, Zanzi Bazaar. Sorry, didn't read that very well. What is my favorite country? Um, I assume you're talking about in the game because that would be an obvious answer. Canada. I live in Canada and I love Canada. That's my favorite country. But um, as far as playing the game, um, for Global 40, I like playing the UK. For Global 36, there's a few countries that are fun to play. Like the Commonwealth is cool as well, But Germany and Japan are really neat to play in that game because they both um, they're really unlimited in what they're allowed to do. Uh, a lot of that game is diplomacy. Like it takes a lot to get America into the war, um, and to get the UK into the war, and to get France into the war. So things have to happen in order for you to do that. But Germany and Japan, they can go to war whenever they want. So they're not limited in what they can do. Plus, they have a lot of resources, and they have much more stuff than everybody else on the board in early in the game. So you really are a bully. Like you can just go out and pretty much have your way with anybody. So those are fun to play. Um, so yeah, that'll be my answer. If you mean what's my favorite country in the real world, well, it's my country, Canada. Um, I can't even pronounce that. I'm not even gonna try. Unamer Decada Frada. Hmm, that's like the alphabet. What's my favorite USA strategy in 1940? Well, it seems to me there's two of them. Like you basically choosing, I'm either going to attack the Pacific or I'm going to attack the Atlantic. If you try to do both, then um, you're gonna have to hope that the Axis players are not very good. The Axis have the advantage in that game, and they're probably going to win no matter what you do. Um, but you do have to be on top of your game as a not just a USA player, but UK and Russia as well. Um, as far as what I like doing, I like going after Germany. I like building the floating bridge. Um, I like to attack through, just like my USA strategy, floating bridge on YouTube. There, I really like doing that. I like the technical aspect of building that supply line and attacking through the Mediterranean. But I mean, you're not limited to that. You can also attack up north if you want. But it's fun too to build a bunch of boats in the Pacific and go after Japan, right? You can do either. So anyway, next one is my granddaughter's favorite person, Bubba Squid. She she likes making videos with me. She every time I see her, when are we gonna make another video, Grandpa? Is Bubba Squid gonna be there? It says, if it's not too personal, are you married? If yes, for how long have you been? I am not married anymore, but I used to be. I got married and had kids and everything, and it seems like a lifetime ago. It was quite a while ago. In fact, I had another relationship after that. The two of us didn't get married, but we were together for many years, in fact. And she also had kids, so I had my own two kids, and then she had three kids. So at one time we had five kids in the house, and it was lots of kids and dogs and cats and everything, and I really enjoyed that part of my life. It was very fulfilling, having watching your kids grow up and everything. But right now, I live alone. I'm single and not looking. Let's put it that way. Um, I was kind of forced to be single. Not really forced, but I kind of forced myself to be single back in 2012 after the mill I was working at blew up, and I didn't go and get a new job. What I did instead was I went back to school to get an education, which meant that I was extremely broke. And so when you're broke, then it's pretty hard to go out dating, isn't it? So I stopped dating at that time, and and then that lasted for a couple of years, right? Doing that whole thing, and then by the end of that, I kind of okay, well, I guess I should start dating again, and I sat there thinking about it. Well, I really don't want to though. You know, I'm happy. Like, yeah, when you go for many years, with a big family like I had, and it's just like a dull roar all around you. You know, things flying back and forth, and like I said, kids and dogs and everything, and you know, like it's kind of nice. It's so quiet, you know. You put something down in your house, and it's there when you get, you know, you go to work and you come back, and it's still there, right? It's kind of weird, you know. At first, it was hard to get used to, but I did get used to it, and so um, yeah, I'm not married anymore, and I'm not really looking. If somebody comes along, then fine, but I'm really not out there trying. That's for sure. Anyway, thanks for the question. So next one, Wildcat 6305, and Wildcat asks, whatever your favorite preferred factions alliance to play in G40, G36, and 1914. I think I just answered that for the most part. So G40 was the Commonwealth. The reason I like the Commonwealth in that game is just because they're on both sides of the board. Uh, like it's fun to play the U.S. in that game. It's fun to play Russia, and it's fun to play Japan and Germany as well. But everybody else is narrow in their focus, right? And America, they should be narrow in their focus. They should attack one side or the other. But with the UK, they're truly uh, going at it from a global perspective, and so that's what I like about that. You're involved all over the board. In 36, I think the three I like is the Commonwealth and Germany and Japan. And then in 1914, I've only played that once. Like I played a play test of it for a few hours, and we only got a few turns in. I played I played the Commonwealth that day. No, I played France that day. That's right. And in this game, I played. It was me against Rank Carcass. So I was the Allies. He was the Central Powers. Um, I think I don't have enough information on the 1914. I think though that either any of the strong powers, so that would be the UK or France or Germany, would be the best ones to play in the 1914 game because the other guys are limited in their incomes and in the scope of what they can do and what they can accomplish. So Baku, the Moon Eater. Baku would like to know, what is the least likable rule you like in the 1940 game? There's a couple of them that seem really strange to me. I think the one that grates my nuts the most, though, would be the rule that states that the you could take before America's at war, you could take the entire Japanese Navy and park them in Pearl Harbor. Like I'm talking about the entire Japanese Navy, three carriers, you know, two battleships, a whole bunch of subs and carriers and destroyers, loaded transports. You could load everybody up and go sit in that sea zone that contains Hawaii with the American fleet, and the Americans are not going to be alarmed about that. The Americans don't consider that an act of war. To in what universe would that ever happen? Like to me, that was an oversight. It's the rule of what it states is that you can't go, or that you can only go like within two spaces, um, or you have to be two spaces away from the American mainland coast, but that includes Hawaii. And so to me, that just seems ridiculous that you could do it. Like they should have excluded Hawaii because it doesn't make any sense to me. Another thing that doesn't really make that much sense is that you could walk all the way across Siberia, you know, like it was nothing, the Japanese, you know, and then go take Moscow. But I mean, that one's not, you know, like that's, it still takes you a lot of work to do that. But the one thing that really is weird to me is that you could go park that whole Navy over there. It just doesn't seem right. Gargantuan doggo. So Gargantuan would like to know, does my family all live together with you? The answer is no. My two kids live in town here. Um, and my three stepkids live down south, and that's about it. Like as far as my own family, like my sisters, one of them travels all over the world. We call her a hobo, but she calls herself a digital nomad. She works on the internet and travels the world. My other sister lives here in town. My mom lives in town. My dad lives in Calgary. But yeah, no, I live alone. So Alexander Zarbas, and his question is: do you like 1940 or 1936 the most? Absolutely like 1936 the most. I think that most people would. If 1940 is a really tough game for you, like if you're, you only playing it because your friend likes it, but you would rather play an easier game than that, then 1936 isn't for you. But if you play 1940 and you're to the point where you want to make up house rules and stuff like that, then 1936 is the way to go. It's a much better game. Um, it's not just the 1940 game with some house rules in it. It's actually been developed over years now, and it continues to develop. The next version of the game will be even better than the last version of the game, um, and it's just a much better game. It's the one thing that um, got me away from Global 40 to begin with was that everything just seemed so scripted. Like there was, and anybody that's been on accessandallies.org for a few years will know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the thinking is you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this, and you can't stray from that. It's got to be three fighters. It can't be two. It has to be three. And then these guys have to move here. Not that guy. That guy's got to go over there. This guy's got to go over here. It was all scripted. And like people that have played the game a number of times, all you need to do is play the first three turns, and you pretty much know who's going to win the game. Three or four turns. Like it could go one way or the other, maybe, but you can see, okay, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then these guys are going to do this, then this is going to, it's like the chess masters that they see the game ending 10 moves ahead of time. You know what I mean? Um, it's just but in 1936 it's not like that. Like there's so many different ways that you can go in that game. I mean, for one thing, you're starting 3 years before the war did. So by the time you get to the war, or let's just say by the time you get to 1940, that's 4 years. So by the time you get to 1940, every starting point is different because you're never going to see the exact same moves by all the different countries to get to 1940 from 1936. So every starting point in that game would be different in 1940, and it's not just that. Like I like the routes that you take, the way the sea zones are cut up and everything. So it takes you this many to get across the water here, and this many to get across the water there. It's not a perfect game, but it's a much better game. Um, and like I said, it continues to get better. Whereas I don't see Axis and Allies getting better. And you see, like friends of mine out there, um, Grasshopper and Sired Blood, and everybody else basically making house rules, but they're all making their own versions of Axis and Allies because you're not going to see another version of Axis and Allies. We all know Wizards of the Coast isn't going to put it out, right? And Larry Harris doesn't do anything for the game anymore. So the Global 40 is probably as good as it's going to get. It's not going to get any better. Thankfully, he was there long enough to do a second edition of Global 40. Like if he'd have gone after the first edition was done, then it would have been like if you ever played the first edition, it's deeply flawed compared to the second edition, and the second edition isn't perfect either. But a third edition Now we're starting to talk like that could have been a better game right there, right? But that's never going to happen. Like you look at Axis and Allies 1914, that would have been Larry's last game with the Axis and Allies franchise, and uh, and that game is deeply flawed. Like it desperately needs a second edition, but it's not going to get one. Whereas Global War is a better game already, and it's going to get even better because these guys, like, they're still at it, right? They're still in it for the long haul. So that's okay. So the next one, Mark Anderson. Okay, Mark, what's your question? How does it feel to be looked up to by so many? Uh, that's kind of it, it's it felt really weird in the beginning. Um, I tell you why, because when you're making videos like this, it's just you, right? It's just you in your house by yourself with a camera, or perhaps, like in this case, I've got my laptop making a video, right? There's nobody around here, you know? If there's people here, then I'm not making a video. There's very, very seldom that I ever made a video when somebody else was in my house. And I just said, I got to go finish this video off. Just go ahead and watch TV. I'm going to go in my room there and finish this video off. But that's very seldom, right? Like if somebody's here, I'm probably going to be hanging out with them. So it's really a solitary thing, and so the first um, inclination that I got that like it was kind of stunning to me was when I went to Toronto to play in the Grasshopper Invitational. Um, so when Sireblood and I showed up there, people knew who we were, and it felt kind of weird. Like you walk into the room there, and it's just full of Axis and Allies players, and everybody turns to look at you, and they all that look in their face, and they, you can tell that they recognize you, and that's not something that's ever happened to me before. Um, there hasn't been any events in my life that would cause a lot of people to know who I was, and I didn't know who they were. You know what I mean? Like if I met a bunch of people as one thing, then we would know each other. But to have a bunch of people recognize me and me not being able to recognize them was an extremely um, weird feeling. It was just strange, and it was hard to get used to. But when I came home, though, then I was cognizant of that. Right, I understood that was the case, and but um, still, though, like still, you can't get away from the fact that even after that, you come home, you're still in the room by yourself, making a video by yourself. It's not like you're a famous person. Like what we do here is a very small genre of people. Um, Sometimes just for kicks, I'll be on YouTube. I'll click on something and it'll lead you to something else, which leads you to something else, and you'll find a whole different genre of people that are doing something that you would never think of doing. You know, and I'm not talking about playing games or anything, but just there'll be some building a community where they're carpenters, or some thing where I came across this girl's channel where all she did was get lingerie in the mail, and they take them out of boxes and try them on for you. Like, I mean, you wouldn't see her taking her clothes off and doing that. Like, you have to watch what you're doing on there. But then try, and of course she had millions of subscribers, right? I'm thinking, what the hell, And then, like, so then there's other people. It comes up in the feed on the right, and there's a bunch of people that do that kind of thing, and you think, where do people get this stuff from? But then they think we're just as weird, right? They think that our hobby is just, like, who would play with little plastic army men, like, you know. So but yet our genre, our niche here is so small that it's not like you're famous. Like I go to work there, and to people there, I'm just Brian. I'm just the guy they work with. I've told people there that I have this alter ego, General Hand Grenade, and that I play with plastic army men on the internet, and they look at me like I just spoke Chinese or something. Like they look at me like, what? Because they've known me for years. Some of them have known me for decades, and yet I do that. Yeah, I do what? I said I got almost 2,000 subscribers. People watch me do that. No way, like they. So it's relative, Mark. It's relative. It's. Uh, I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't get too full of yourself when this happens, because while there might be a bunch of people out there, and I appreciate that, a bunch of subscribers and a bunch of people that tune in to watch my videos, and you're one of them. I know you've been one of my oldest subscribers and followers. Um, the, there's not very many of us. You know what I mean? Like I could go anywhere else in the world and nobody would know me, and I'm fine with that. Like I've never aspired to be any more than that, and so it does feel kind of strange to me that even that there is one group of people in the world who know who I am and who actually look up to me and everything. And I guess I can be proud of that because you don't just fall into that, right? It's not like all I had to do was put some underwear on, like that girl did. You know, she wasn't even good at making videos. But like you actually have to make good videos and stuff for people for people to subscribe to you and to keep watching your videos. And so it makes you feel good that you have accomplished something, but it's really still humbling that nobody else in the world knows who you are. So thanks for your question. Rank Carcass. Where have I heard that name before? My buddy Rank. Can't wait to find out what you want to know. Okay. What is your favorite of either game or expansion? Well, I already answered the game thing. That was 36. Expansion. Um, I'm not sure that I have one favorite one. Um, I know the ones that I don't like. I'm not going to mention those. But I guess the ones that I do like are the ones that add flavor to the game without deciding the game. Like the new Canada expansion, that's really cool because it changes the game. It changes it in a way that is unique. You know what I mean? It changes the Battle of the Atlantic, definitely for sure. But I also like the kind, like I was mentioning earlier, the American Minorities at War and the elite of the Reich and the elite of the Soviet Union, where you're promoting your units and they're becoming better units, and so there's that too. There's the country ones like Turkey, Turkey at War. For me, the Spanish Civil War is not that much different than the regular rules. Like I just play by the regular rules because the Spanish Civil War is actually a really long rule set. I like games that, or sorry, I like expansion sets where the rules are seamless in the game. You know what I mean? Like they don't introduce a whole new set of mechanics in the game. They use the mechanics that are already in the game, and they just change it up slightly. You know what I mean? Like that Canada at War one. It doesn't make any new uh, um, mechanics in the game. It adds one unit to the game, but you're basically using that unit as you do all the other Canadian pieces like you would normally use them in the game. It just cuts up the income a bit and gives you another country. So, but the ones that are really complicated, though, the ones that have pages and pages and pages of rules, that like this is a complicated enough game to learn, and so to try to learn a whole new rule set that never seems to end, right? That are very specific and different mechanics. Those are. It just seems like they were made just for making the game more technical or more difficult, which some people like, but to me that just takes away from some of the flow of the game. So I like the expansion sets that keeps that flow in the game. Squiddy Vice, by the way, good luck on Good luck on winning this time, Rank. I know you'll never win this, but someday you'll win. I'm predicting someday you're going to win. Okay, Squiddy Fice. I like playing video games, and what about you? So, yeah, I do like video games. I like them a lot. But that's why I don't play them because I found like I started like back when the very first Nintendo was out, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. You know what I mean? That era of games. I had that, and I can't remember what the other one was, like Sega Genesis or something. So I had those ones, and I think I've had one since then as well. But the problem I have with those games is that um, I'll sit down to play a game, and I'll look up, and it'll be 4 months later. Like honestly, I won't remember the last 4 months except for what I was playing in the game. I just to me it's too addicting, and anybody that plays video games knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that's a huge genre here on YouTube. Like people with millions of subscribers watching each other play video games, right? Like they're way too um, engrossing, and so like for me with the board games, at least you're getting up and moving around and you're interacting with people, right? I suppose you interact on with video games now with the headsets and everything, but I kind of like being there in the same room and having fun and having lunch, and playing a game. To me, that's more fun. And to move around and things like that. Whereas when I play a video game, I'm just going to sit down and I'm not getting up until till my next kid's born. See, that was back when I was in my 20s, right? And I actually ended up giving away my video games because of that. Like some kid came over and he really loved playing it, and I knew that I hadn't done anything in months, and so and just the circumstances. I'm not going to tell you all the circumstances, but I just, this kid needed a break. And so I said, you know what? It's yours. I packed up all my games, packed up my console, said, it's yours. You take it home. And his mother didn't want to, of course, but I said, no, I insist. I said, if you don't take it home, I'm throwing it in the garbage. And so she took it home. I haven't seen the kid since, but um, I'm sure that it was in much better hands than in mine. But since that day, I still like video games, but I won't allow myself to own one. If I go to a friend's place and he's got one, then I might play or something. But I won't buy one myself. I could afford one. I got a nice big TV. It'll be great, But I won't do that because I won't accomplish anything else in life. So thanks for the question. So Alexander McZarbus. Okay, and what game mode do you like most, 14 or 36? I've already answered that question. 36 by far. It is a much more rich game with many more units. And Nick. That's what I said. His name is Nick. Nick. Okay. Do I have any other grandchildren? Yes, I do. You've seen Callie. She's been on my videos before. She's got a little sister who just turned 1 year old. Her name is Lily. And I have two grandsons. One of them's just gotten to high school. They're step grandsons. And the other one, I think he's in grade 6 or 7. I think grade 7 now. He's going to be going to high school next year, or this year. So yeah, I do. Moffett Field. That's my friend Moffett Field from San Francisco. What game or variation would you like to see developed? I'm guessing you're talking about a game that doesn't already exist. So, I've always, one of the games that I really liked, it was from the Game Master series. That was the series that had the original Axis and Allies, what we call classic Axis and Allies now. So that in that same size of box, there was a bunch of games. There was that one, and then there was Fortress America. There was Shogun, which is now called Samurai Swords, and there was one called Conquest of the Empire. And I really liked that Conquest of the Empire game. It was just a big map of the Mediterranean, and then the countries around the Mediterranean. So you wouldn't get all of Europe or all of Africa. You just got the countries around the Mediterranean, and so basically you were picking one of the empires, right? You were Egypt or you were Rome or you were whatever, right? Um, there was six different ones, and it was everybody for themselves, kind of like a risk game. That was neat. So what I would like to see is something like that, in either a World War II game that has as its feature a big map of the Mediterranean, and then the area around it. Like you'd have Italy in there, and you'd have Greece, and you'd have Spain, and you'd have all of North Africa. You'd have the Middle East, and you'd have at least the lower Balkans anyway, right? So that you could have land battles, and there would be a lot of sea battles. I think that that would be pretty neat. Either that, or even like Conquest of the Empire, if it was an ancient game, um, from ancient times, that would be pretty neat too. Uh, but I've always been fascinated by the Mediterranean, and I'd like to see a game built around the Mediterranean, a game in this style, right, with the little plastic army men. Thanks, Moffat. Good luck. And then Alex Woodzani, and my friend Alex, who lives just to the west of me, quite a bit to the west, probably about 500 miles, 700 or 800 kilometers. So Alex wants to know, how excited are you about reaching 2,000 subs? It's cool, Alex, but I think I answered this earlier. I was more excited when I reached 1,000 subscribers, even though I recognize that this is, another um, um, accomplishment. Uh, to me, I'm not about the numbers as much now as I used to be. So like I appreciate that the numbers go up, but I kind of expect them to. Like I've been doing this for 3 years now, and that's what the numbers do. They go up, right? And unless I stop making videos, and I have a feeling that even if I did stop making videos, that they would still go up for a while, and then eventually they'd level off, right? And maybe people would start to leave, so they wouldn't get any higher than that. But it's not really a magic formula. Once you get over 1,000 to reach 2,000, it's just going to happen eventually, and the other guys will find that too. Like Sire Blood will find that, and Hilltop Pillbox. Like I think they're both 15 or 1,700, something like that. They're getting really close, and it won't be long before they reach 2,000. And I'm guessing the kind of people that they are, that they probably feel much the same as I do. That you get caught up in the beginning, like, oh, this is really cool, but then after a while, you just it's really, you're just doing it for the fun of the making the videos and fun of making friends, right? It's really not about the number of subscribers anymore. Having said that, I mean, if all of a sudden I took off in China and I had 1 million subscribers tomorrow, I'd probably get excited about that, right? I'd have to monetize my channel, but like that's not going to happen, right? Like like I mentioned earlier, it's such a small genre that that is actually a pretty good accomplishment to make it to 2,000 subscribers, but that's not what drives me anymore, though. But anyway, thanks for the question. So, John Belena. Lots of questions today. Holy crap, this video is going long too. What do you like most, summer or winter? Definitely summer. If you lived as far north as I do, you would love summer compared to winter. Winters last too long up here. Summers are too short. And plus, the cabin is much more fun. And if you ever had to shovel snow, like when I shovel snow, my my driveway can get like 12 feet, uh, snowbanks 12 feet high on the sides of my driveway. Like you're throwing snow up to them. So yeah, summer. Un falletto calceto or cacaletto. What's the best house rule which you suggest we must use? Hmm, I don't know. Um, my favorite house rule was the Special Forces unit. That was also the first video that I ever made. Um, but like everybody's different. Everybody is looking for has their own idea of what where they see their game going, right? Where they and with the friends that they have and their level of understanding of the game. So for me, it would be that if for Global 40, it would be um, the Special Forces unit. But one of the reasons that I think that is because there isn't the same richness in that as there is in the 36 game, and so there is a lack of units in that game when you get used to the other game that has so many more units, right? So, thank you, Lucas X Gamer. Uh, what's your favorite game of AxisAndAllies.com? So I'm guessing you're wondering about an Axis and Allies game because there's lots of games on there. So I'll just say that my favorite Axis and Allies game by far is Global 40. I wouldn't even play the rest of them. Um, Global 40. Like I might play um, Anniversary, like if it was limited in time. But the other ones is once you get up to the level Global 40, then the rest of them just seem like kids' games after that. So, Legacy 1912 wants to know if I'm, he said, am I retired or about to retire soon? He asked that because Doug announced his retirement recently. Um, I wish, but no, I'm not. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I had to take a couple of years off, and I was really living very lean at the time because I went back to school. I was a starving student. I was eating peanut butter and jam sandwiches, so I basically had to start over. Not totally though. I mean, I already had my house and I had my cabin, but they wiped out my savings during that time. So I'm going to have to go until I'm 65, I'm sure, and I'm only 55 now, so it's going to be another 10 years for sure, I think, before I can retire. And next one is Guzu Smuzu. Okay. What is the greatest adventure I've been through? Hmm, good question. Um, when I think of adventures, I think of going away, right? Um, like if you're at home or if you're in your own hometown, then it's really not that much of an adventure. To me, an adventure is when you're experiencing things that you've never experienced before. And not just one thing, but a whole bunch of things that are happening that you've never experienced before. I've been fortunate over the last few years to get to go to a few different places. I went to Tucson recently, and I went to Tulsa earlier this year. Of course, that was fun. That was a bit of an adventure for me. Um, one of them that was the funnest adventure, but I've already told you all about was going to the Grasshopper Invitational. Syred and I had met in the Toronto airport, and then we drove down to um, what is it, Niagara Falls there. We had just an awesome day, had a blast. But I've already told you that whole story. Um, and then, of course, back up to Toronto the next day and everything, and the CN Tower. Um, I've been to Buffalo a couple of times. I have a favorite singer that I went to go see there. I think the second time, I'll tell you about that one. Because the first time I went, that was when the mill blew up. I was there, and of course, then my holiday was over in the blink of an eye like that. And so when I went back there, it was the same singer was singing in the same place, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to finish my holiday. I went back just by myself. I didn't take anybody with me. I didn't take any pictures, not even one on the whole trip. I thought, you know what, this trip is just something just therapeutic, like a way to get over everything that had happened over the last few years, because it really was a trying time in my life. And so when I went, I never sat at a table anywhere. I'd sit up at the bar, whether that was in one of the um, airports on the way there, or whether it was in a bar or in a hotel or whatever. I always sat up at the bar and just talked to people, like met people from all over. Um, and so in that way, it was a bit of an adventure for me, just being by myself, not sharing the trip with everybody, and knowing in my mind that I wasn't going to. I knew ahead of time I wasn't going to take any pictures. I just thought this is for me. And I got to know a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life, and heard a lot of interesting stories. I met this one guy in a hotel bar. He was all nervous and everything, and he was waiting for his ex-wife, who he hadn't seen in 15 years. She called him up out of the blue and wanted to meet with him, to talk with him. And so he didn't know what she wanted. Like, did she want to get back together? Like, what's going on here? Like he hadn't seen her, and you could tell he wasn't quite over her, right? Even though they hadn't seen each other, like not even once in 15 years. So, so then, I'm sitting there having a drink with the guy, and then he leaves, right? And then he comes back a while later, and his look on his face, he was just stunned. He didn't know what. And he's, what the fuck. And I said, so you get laid or what? I was just joking with the guy, and he goes, I've got a daughter. That's what his ex-wife wanted, to tell him that she was pregnant when they broke up, and that she had a daughter afterwards, and they were living in different towns. And anyway, so it was just stories like that, right? Like where I met different people with coming from different places and telling me different stories, and just had a lot of fun doing that. That was 2015 in heading to Buffalo. So, good question. Sylvester Gatto. What's my favorite food? You know what? I love seafood. Crab legs. That's an easy one. I'm gonna have to move faster here because I've wasted so much time. So it's crab legs, Sylvester. Okay. Cobra, Axis and Allies. How did I get into Axis and Allies? If you want to know the full story, it's on the very second video that I ever put out. It's called General Hand Grenade and a Coffee. But basically, what it was growing up. As a little kid, I loved playing Risk. I must have played 1,000 games of Risk when I was a kid, and um, we used to play with two boards side by side, but two different versions of the game, so that like you would know which cards went to which board and everything. And I love that game. So when the classic version of Axis and Allies came out, I said, "Whoa, what is this game?" Because that was like chess compared to playing checkers before, right? Sorry, I'm just trying to write people's names down here. But anyway, that's basically how I got into it. Was playing a lot of playing a lot of Risk growing up, and then being introduced to that game when I was 20 years old. Axis and the original Axis and Allies. So, General Hand Grenade fan. I don't know where he got that name from. He says, I am GHG greatest fan. Even though I know it all, I'll still ask the question, have you ever thought you would have a fan base opposite Canada, in Europe even? Uh, no, I didn't. Um, like I don't even think of people as being a fan base, right? Like I don't even think of my subscribers as being fans. Um, I don't know if they are or not, but honestly, to me they're just people who join me. And honestly, like if anybody watching this video wants to come over and play a game, like I've got a couch here you can sleep on. You're welcome to come to my house and play games. I'll pick you up at the airport and feed you and everything while you're here. Like honestly, I just like playing games, and I don't think of people as fans. I just think of them as fellow gamers, right? And so yeah, I know. I honestly never thought of having a fan base anywhere, including here. Right? It's not something I've ever aspired to. And I know that sounds weird because we're living in an age where celebrity culture is so prevalent. I think it's probably uh, goes partway into um, providing a reason why there's so many mass shootings and everything in today's world. Like people, they just want to be famous. I mean, that's not the only reason they do it. Obviously, there something wrong with them, and there's other issues involved in that. But I think one of the issues is that they want to be famous, and they've lost the ability um, to um, the lines between famous and infamous have blurred for them. Like so. But I've never cared about any of that. The only thing I ever wanted growing up was just to be happy. I didn't care if I was famous or not famous. Just being happy was all I ever wanted. So anyway, Spitfire, 1978. Do you have a board game geek account? Also, do you play any other more modern board games? I don't have a board game geek account. I don't know, should I? Maybe you can tell me. Like I've gone there before, but I haven't stayed there for very long. I've just gone there, when I've somebody's provided a link for it for some basic reason, right? And do I play any other modern board games? Uh, Not really, though. Not really, no. Just the ones that you've seen on my channel. I'm looking forward to the Vietnam game. I think there's a question about that coming up, though. Um, but yeah, not really. Just the global war and Axis and allies for the most part. So, next question. Jonathan Maxon. He also wants to know what my favorite food was. I already told you it was crab legs. But when I like crab legs, I like them with a good steak too. Okay. Andrew LeBerge, what's the most rewarding part about being in the Axis and Allies community? Um, I think, Andrew, that the most rewarding part is the people that are here. I like just about everybody in the community. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said I liked everybody. But, like eventually in every community, you're going to come across people that rub you the wrong way. But I gotta say, in this community, that those are really hard to find. The people in this community are really nice people, and for the most part, supportive of each other and supportive of me. And I think the most rewarding part is getting to meet some of them. Um, when I went to Tulsa earlier this year to test games with the historical board gaming crew, a guy called me up, VK Cowboy. He had contacted me, and I'd never I didn't know him before. Like I'd heard his name before, but I'd never spoken to him. We'd never exchanged any words or anything, even online. And he said, "Hey, you're coming. You should come over to my house and play a game." And he wasn't even in the same town. Like he was in Oklahoma City, whereas I was going to Tulsa. And I thought, well, geez, if I'm flying down there, I might as well go. Like I love meeting people and everything. And man, was I ever glad that I did, because him and his wife were just super nice people. And he drove all the way to Tulsa, picked me up. Like my plane got there in the middle of the night, drove me back to his house, and we played games all the next day. And then he drove me all the way back to Tulsa in like it was icy roads and everything. I mean, what an awesome guy to do that. But that would be the most rewarding part is getting to meet people like him and meet people like um, Rank Carcass and the other people that have had the opportunity to meet while I was playing games. That's been absolutely the best part. Mike Roberts. Mike asks, are you making any videos on any other HBG games coming out, like 2025 or Cold War version? I don't know, Mike. If they ask me to, I will, but I don't have any of the stuff to do that, right? Like, all I've got is World War II and World War One pieces and maps, and so um, I I don't have the money to get into another game right now. But if they want to send me the stuff, then absolutely I'll make videos of them. But that's I think that they might already have people doing that. So that's great too. If they ask me to, I will. But if not, then I'll be interested in watching the videos coming from other people and buying the game when I can afford it. So Rich Jerstad. Rich is another guy that has come to my home from. He's traveled here on the train to come and play a game. We played a game of Global 40 before I went to Toronto. So, are you getting that Vietnam game that was on Kickstarter? Yes, I am, Rich. Man, it's taken forever, isn't it? It should have been here by now, but they're still pissing around. I don't think the game's even made yet. Um, I've heard some things about it, but like the guy is definitely trying his hardest to get it done. It's just that I don't think he realized the kind of skills that you needed to get this done. It's not just about having a good idea. It's about knowing lots about plastic and lots about China and you know. But I'm really looking forward to getting that game when it does come. I've already paid for it and everything, so I can't wait to get it. And he also has any interest in the HB games, Barbarossa or Kursk. Again, like um, I don't know. I haven't looked at them much. I've been kind of focused on doing the games that I've been doing. So at some point in time, maybe they're World War II games, and I love World War II games. So that is a distinct possibility. So next one is John Green. Do you have children? Yes, I've answered that. I have 2 children and 3 stepchildren. And actually, it's my stepdaughter's birthday today. Grassoni Panzoni, have you ever been to Italy? No, I haven't. Send me a ticket. I will come. Do you have a couch I can sleep on? I would love to go to Italy or anywhere in the Mediterranean for that matter. I just love that whole culture around the Mediterranean there. All the old. I love ruins and stuff. Like I'm a huge history buff, right? So I would just lose myself in that. Next question. Axis and Allies Japan wants to know, do I have a dog? I used to. I've had dogs and cats over the years, I mean. My last dog was a few years ago, though. As I mentioned earlier, I live alone now. And so um, I was living alone when I had my last dog. In the end, my daughter was living with me, going to university, first high school and then university. And so when there's 2 people at home, then it's a lot easier on the dog. But now with just me, I go to work and I'm gone for at least 9 hours. And when I've got meetings and stuff, then it's 12 hours. And it's really hard on a dog or even a cat. Not so much a cat. Cats are more self-sufficient, but it's really hard on a dog. They got to go outside and go to the bathroom, right? And to leave them alone for 12 hours like that, it's just not fair. And so that's why I've resisted getting another dog. I love taking a dog to the lake and everything, just to see how excited they get when you say, "Do you want to go to the lake?" and the dog starts doing backflips. I mean, just that alone is worth it. So I miss having a dog, and you know, if I ever find myself not living by myself again, then maybe that's what I'm gonna do. So the next question is exactly the same one. It says, "Do I have a pet?" And I just answered that I don't, and for the same reasons. That's Mamage Losa. Okay, next question. Dutch Panzer. Um, what is my favorite Axis and Allies power to play for Global War and Global War 36? And does it differ? I've already answered those questions, and the video is going really long, so I'm just gonna, it's like I told you before, it's the countries that I already said. Sorry, Dutch, I've already answered those questions, but thank you for the question. Johnny Squit. And Johnny wants to know, what was your job before YouTube? YouTube's not a job. It's yeah, I don't make any money doing this. I've done the same job that I've done since I got out of high school, and that's working in a sawmill. And I've done many different things over the years in a sawmill. I can pretty much do it all now. When it comes to um, cutting lumber, I've probably cut enough lumber in my lifetime, just me myself, to build New York City, and I'm not even joking. So, next one. Oh, I already answered that guy's question. He says, "What's my favorite Axis game?" 1940. I already answered that one. It was definitely 1940 as well. That's Vafan Guello Porco. Geez, there's lots of Italian people in here, isn't there? Sergeant Power Surge. Okay. What do you think about recruitment centers? Have you heard if anything may be implemented in the game? Okay, so I like the idea of recruitment centers. Basically, what they are is factories for just for infantry, right? And I like the way that they did it in that 1914 game where they just put, like silhouettes of little men there. So and they were all over the board, so you could recruit from any of those places without having to have a factory. I thought that was a neat way of doing it. The way it's done in 36, there's two of the countries. There's Great Britain and there's France that have colonial infantry. And for an extra dollar, like normally it costs you three, but for if you pay four, then you can build a regular infantry in one of your colonial territories. So he'd be it's called a colonial infantry, but he basically has the same stats as a regular infantry. Sorry, I had to look at my phone. My son's on his way over. We got to wrap this up. But yeah, like I like the idea of recruitment centers. I like that having that. I like having that basically a factory that only brings dudes out. So Claudius Maximus is next. What other board games do you recommend to play that are not from Axis and Allies or historical board gaming? There's only one that I can think of right now. And I know I played a lot of board games in my life, but they're just not coming to mind. But one that I really enjoyed was Lord of the Rings Risk. There's lots of different Risk games, but Lord of the Rings Risk was a map of Middle Earth, and it was a Risk game on it, and there was a ring on there and everything that you had to do. And the last question, Jorn Updahl. Okay. Would it be a good idea to have different countries use dice upon how good they were, like in a battle between Germany and Russia, Germany using a six-sided dice and Russia using a 8-sided dice. And this is to differentiate the quality of troops and equipment. Jorn, you could do that, but I think a better way to do it would just be to change the numbers on the dice. Like if you're thinking about Axis and Allies, then it's only a 6-sided dice, right? But with the Global War, it's 12-sided dice. So it's really easy to make an incremental change in the dice roll that you do. And they already do that, but not necessarily in the attack and the defense options, although they could do that. What they do is that, for instance, a Japanese tank costs more than everybody else's tanks. Japanese um, transport, naval transport, costs less than most other people's transports. I think it's the Japanese and the American ones that only cost 7. Everybody else costs 8. I think I could be wrong about that, but anyway, that's the way they do that, and I think that would be a better way to go. To use the same dice, but to use different numbers on the dice, and use a 12-sided dice, like a 6-sided dice. That's just too much of a difference, right? There's too much of a difference between 2 and 3, for instance, right? Whereas not as much of a difference between 2 and 3 if you're using a 12-sided dice. So I think that would be a better way to go. And the other reason for that is that, like just what I said there, the Japanese tanks, there weren't many of them in the war, and so they didn't want you to build many. But there were lots of transports, and so they made them cheaper. So just because the Germans had better something doesn't mean the Russians didn't have a different unit that was better than the Germans. But yet, if your German dice is 6-sided and your Russian dice is 8-sided, then all of your units would have to be better German than Russian, and I don't know that that would be the best way to do it for that reason alone. That's why I would prefer the other way to do it, where you're doing it with um, just using the same dice and using different numbers. So let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 rows of 6. So I put everybody's numbers there that I took questions from, and let's just roll the dice. I got a 6-sided dice here. I know you can't see this, but I've got no reason to cheat. Okay, so 6. That's ham bone. 7733. Unless, of course, you get a hold of me in the next 2 minutes and offer me money, then I've got a reason to cheat. Not going to do that though. So next dice, 2. Oh, great. That's the name I can't even pronounce. Okay. I'll show you this name, and then you can see that I'm not making it up. This is see this name here? How do you pronounce that? You might have seen I scratched the name off there. That's because that guy just won a prize from me. So I thought, I'll just give everybody else a chance on this one. So 3. Oh, sorry, the third one here. 1, 2. Okay, here we go. 3. Ryan Carcass. Good luck, buddy. Let's see how close you can get this time. I'm cheering for you, though. Next one. 5. Lucas X Gamer. Okay, next one. 1. That's Guzu Smoozu. And the next one. 6. Axis and Allies Japan. And one more. So there's actually going to be 7 in here. 5. That is Glaudius Maximus. So I've got 7 names in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 12-sided die, and I'll just keep rolling until I get somewhere between 1 and 7. So like if I get an 8, then we're going to roll again, right? Okay, here we go. 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh. You did it, Rank. Rank Carcass. I guess it should be fitting, though. Him and I have played a number of games together now, and for me, on my 2,000 subscribers, to be giving him a prize, I can't think of anybody that is a nicer guy in our community or is more deserving. So you don't have to send me your particulars. I know who you are. I will just send your prize off to you, but I'll get a hold of you. I'll phone you after this, and actually, you know what? Let's phone him right now, okay? Let's see if we can get a hold of him. We might not be able to, but let's just see if we can. Oh, let's call him. See if we can get a hold of him. He might be at work though. Like he works shift work, so. This never works out when you're doing it live on camera, right? But we'll try. 3 ringy dingies. 4 ringy dingies. Nope, we didn't get a hold of him. I'll text him and we'll talk to him later. Okay then. So congratulations, Rank Carcass, and thank you everybody for tuning in, not only to this video but to all the videos that I put out over the years. Thank you for being a subscriber, and here's to many more videos in the future. So hang on a second. Where am I? There we go. I had to get this back. So stick with me. Hopefully you'll win a prize next time. Just look at Rank there. He was never going to win a prize, and he won one today. So maybe the gods will be shining on you next time. So take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.